What's going on, everyone? This is Jag Central, and I hope you're all doing well. But this is a review of the Jacksonville Jaguars beating the defending, reigning Super Bowl champs. Not just the last Super Bowl, but the last two Super Bowls. And the Jacksonville Jaguars beat them convincingly, 26-13. Now, does that mean the Jacksonville Jaguars are the favourites for the Super Bowl? Does that mean the Jacksonville Jaguars are the kings of the AFC? Does that mean the Jacksonville Jaguars have turned the page and now we're going to go and finally win the Super Bowl? I wish that was the case, but this was just a preseason game in week one. But I think there was a lot of positives to take from this, from the Jacksonville Jaguars side of the ball. There were so many positive things that happened. I think the one great thing that we saw was that big kick return that we saw from Parker Washington. And yeah, Parker Washington is someone that is in his second year, a rookie last season, but we didn't get to see much of because of injury. But that was a promising game from him, and that was an amazing kick return. Brought the ball all the way to around the 30-yard line in the Kansas City Chiefs half of the field. And then also the kick return rules. It was kind of interesting to see what happened over the weekend, to see how teams are defending it and how teams are attacking it. And it seemed like the Jacksonville Jaguars were the team that had the biggest play from this. But I'll talk about this a bit later. The other thing that we saw was big catches from Gabe Davis and also Brian Thomas Jr. That was amazing to see. It's always good to see your new players, the players that you've added through free agency and also through the draft, have big plays. Brian Thomas Jr. had a big 40-yard catch, and that was his only catch, but it's amazing to see that we have a big play receiver, but then the other big play receiver that we know and has been doing it for the past few seasons is Gabe Davis. You had a big catch through the middle from Trevor Lawrence all the way to Gabe Davis, and that was nice to see. One thing I'm definitely going to say is that we also got into the red zone with a nice wheel route from Trevor Lawrence to ETN, and that was really nice to see. And David Duvernay also had an awesome catch for a TD, which basically adds to the depth of this team. Offensively, the depth that we have is amazing. We have a plethora of wide receivers. The offensive weapons look amazing. Devin Duvernay is somebody I thought that we brought in for the kick returns, but he didn't even have a kick return. We have Parker Washington as well, who can give us a big play on the kick returns as well. So it's really, really amazing to see that from the offensive side of the ball. In terms of the offensive line, the one that I really think last season kind of let us down quite significantly. I think when I did my review at the end of the season, one thing that I spoke about was that the offensive line did really, really awful last season to basically protect Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence couldn't, he got injured a few times last season. I think he got a shoulder injury, had an ankle injury. I think he also had a knock to the head as well. And that was one of the main reasons why after we started 8-3, we tanked towards the end of the season. And that was because the offensive line could just not protect Trevor Lawrence. And the other thing I was going to say is also our running game towards the end of the season last season as well kind of dipped. ETN wasn't as great as he was in the first half of the season. ETN was up there with Christian McCaffrey as one of the best running backs in the league. But even during this preseason game against the Chiefs, ETN went for 4 rushes, only 3 yards. We couldn't really get any push up the front. But others would say that we didn't have our offensive line fully healthy in that game. But the other thing I was going to say is that it's only preseason and it was only 2 drives, so we shouldn't be looking too deep into it, to be honest. The new defense looks really good. We got 5 sacks, but Mahomes in his only drive carved us up. But to be honest, it was only carving up the backups, but he's got more than enough ability to be carving up anything that you put in front of Mahomes. So I'm not really going to take too much from that as well. And it's not like we're going to be facing a Patrick Mahomes every single week. If we're going to be facing Mahomes, we're going to be facing him in the playoffs. And also Ryan Nielsen, the defensive style wasn't really seen. His defensive scheme is primarily a press man heavy scheme. He had his 2 cornerbacks out. But however, during his introductory presser, he did mention that his staff will lean towards whatever works for the personnel. So if one of the defensive ends can rush inside, he will put them inside. If they can rush better on the outside, they'll be rushing from the outside. So that's one thing that he did mention. Going back to the kick return rules, I'm not really. I'm a fan of it because the Jags did really well with it. So of course, if that was something the case, I would love that rule to stay. But this is the NFL. Coaches are going to find a way to scheme against that and make sure that they're able to neutralize this. And that was the first time the new rule happened. I think we might see it a few extra times in preseason, maybe in week one, for the first few weeks during the season. But I think the NFL coaches, special teams coaches, will find a way to neutralize that and make sure that it's not a big issue. If they're not able to do so, it's going to be a big problem, because imagine teams starting their drive on the 50-yard line, or starting on the 40-yard line, or the 30-yard line like we did. It's always going to be points and points and points, which is, in a way, takes away the hard work of getting a touchdown, because in the NFL, getting points on the board is really difficult. Like, even just getting a field goal is really difficult, and even getting touchdowns are very difficult. But if you're going to make it that easy for the quality of plays that we have in this league now, it's going to be something that's all we're going to see points on every drive. So imagine some teams like the Baltimore Ravens, who get the ball on the 50-yard line already. That's already in Justin Tucker field goal range. And last season, Justin Tucker and the Ravens were scoring a lot of field goals. They were just taking the field goal. If they had the field goal, if they couldn't get into the end zone, they would just take the field goal, and that's an automatic 3 for them. But yeah, talking about the kicking and the field goals, wow, our new kicker, amazing. Cam Little, this is amazing. Like, this guy missed one from over 60 yards, but I think if we get to the 50-yard line, we're already thinking about getting that ball into the through the upright. And I really, really, really think that this is going to help our offense so much. Last season, we were one of the worst teams on third down. I'm not saying that it was because of Brandon McManus or the kicking game, but I think it was more of the scheme. But knowing that you're on third and short, third and 1, third and 2, and you're already in field goal range, and that if you don't get the first down, you're going to get 3 points. Having that reassurance is really, really amazing, because then that gives us the opportunity to make big plays with Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr. and even Kirk and even Ingram. So we have the weapons to make those big plays on third and short, and we don't even have to say, we don't have to say, well, let's try to get the first down. We can just say, let's go for the touchdown. And that's something that I really, really think is going to help our offense quite significantly. And defenses, when it's third and short, they're more likely to sell out for the run. Of course, it depends on the context, where we are with the time, where we are with the score and whatnot. But most of the time, if it's third and short, teams are going to sell out for the run, and that gives opportunity for big plays down the field. Other than that, it was a really positive game, and also the most positive thing that came out of the game was no injuries. I think that's the one thing that you always want to make sure that you come out with every game. Of course, you want to come out with a win, but during preseason, a bill of health is the most important thing. You come out with a bill of health, you make some progress, and that's all you're happy about. We saw also Mac Jones in the game, went for 9-11, looked pretty good, to be honest. But yeah, so I think, in terms of looking forward, we've got the Bucks now next on Saturday, and then we've got one more against the Falcons. But I think going into week one, we look pretty positive, and I feel like last season's woes and issues are kind of behind us, and now it's like a clean slate, and now we're ready for the new season. Because up until this game, we were always thinking about what happened last season, how last season ended. We were thinking about, all right, cool, what's happening with Brian Thomas Jr.? We're not seeing any big highlights. We're seeing highlights from neighbours and whatnot. But I think that game, and even seeing the comments from everyone over the past week since that game, we can see that there's a big positivity going into the season, which is great, and that's what you want. But yeah, thank you guys for listening, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.